LoreWarrior Aerotech Mark VII Landing Craft. The Mark VII landing craft is a heavy aerospace craft that is well armoured and carries a heavy payload. It's somewhat rare, being mass-produced only in the Capellan Confederation. A few are constructed in the Lyran Commonwealth and the Draconis Combine. Massing 100 tons, the Mark VII is capable of transporting up to 65 tons of vehicles and equipment directly into a battle zone. The craft's boxy fuselage is well armoured, with 14.5 tons of armour plate. The vehicle is equipped with the VII 70A fusion drive, which, although quite powerful, is just enough to get a fully loaded craft into orbit. Poor manoeuvrability is this craft's greatest shortcoming. The Mark VII carries a number of weapons to protect itself and to provide covering fire for embarking and disembarking troops and cargo. To fire on aerospace targets and to clear landing zones, the craft is fitted with a single LRM-5 launcher mounted in the cockpit. For closer targets, a single Kajuka medium laser is also mounted on the cockpit. In a small weapons bay in the rear is a single Kajuka medium laser, and in the nose, just below the cockpit, is a pair of small lasers. Mounted under the stubby wings are a set of pylons that are used to carry small bombs and inferno munitions. Because the craft lacks maneuvering power, any payload severely hampers the craft's performance. In fact, the Mark VII cannot achieve orbit without first expending or jettisoning any wing-mounted ordnance. Unlike most of a small craft, the Mark VII is equipped with a set of bottom-mounted, chilled mixture thrusters. These enable the craft to take off and land vertically, allowing it to get into difficult positions. The cool air mixture emitted by thrusters won't damage the mounted ordnance, and the interior of the craft is mostly open for a cargo bay, approximately 14 meters long and 8 meters wide, with a clearance of 5 meters. The entire floor of the bay is an elevator capable of lifting 80 tons, and when the elevator lowers to the ground, cargo can be easily loaded and unloaded. The walls of the bay are covered with many fuel pipes, cooling circulation pipes, heat ducts, electrical conduits, and access panels leading to the various drive components and weapons bays. At the front end of the bay is a door leading into the craft's cockpit, which seats a pilot and co-pilot and crew chief. Houselau possesses a number of Mark VII landing craft with more weaponry, a more powerful engine, and no cargo carrying capacity, but it retains its landing craft appearance. These heavy fighters have fooled Marak and Davian forces during 4 different assaults. Thinking the craft to be easy kills, enemy fighters closed in to find themselves outgunned. Few pilots have lived to tell of the experience. The Lau variant also gives up its cargo capacity for an extra 2 tons of fuel, a Rawlings 300 drive, and 15 heat sinks. Also, the craft carries a nose-mounted AC-10 with 2 tons of ammunition and a third small laser, replacing the LRM-5 with an LRM-20 and 3 additional tons of ammo, and 2 large lasers replacing the cockpit-mounted and aft-mounted medium lasers. Finally, 2 medium lasers are mounted on the wings. To improve its maneuverability, Haus Steiner installed the Pitband 300 into a few of these craft. Because the Pitband weighs over twice as much as the standard VII 70 engine, designers had to cut down the cargo carrying capacity to 55 tons and remove a half ton of armour. This version flew much better, making it quite popular with pilots. However, the craft lost the capability to carry the Patton and Rommel tanks. Because these armoured vehicles have become increasingly important in the Commonwealth Army, few Mark VII conversions were ever made. So yeah, this is a 100-ton craft. As it says, it's not too flashy in appearance. It does what it says it does. It's 21.4 meters long and 20 meters wide, as a crew of 2, with a cargo complement of 65 ton. LRM-5, 2 medium lasers, 2 small lasers, and a single ton of missile ammunition in the standard model. The drive system is the VII 70A, and it was first introduced in 2841. It's considered to be a rare sighting, despite the fact the write-up says that the Capellans use them quite regularly. It has a thrust of 4 and an overthrust of 6. It has an engine rated at 200 with 15 fuel points in total. It has 50 armour on the nose, 30 on the right and left side, 100 on the fuselage, and 22 on the engine. As it says, the nose has the 2 small lasers, with the right wing being equipped with the LRM-5 and the left wing being equipped with a medium laser and an aft-mounted medium laser. giving it fire factor on 1, 1, and 1 on the nose, wings, and aft, respectively. It's a nice touch. I like the idea of, obviously, some of the great houses still using what would, I guess, be considered a kind of old-school technique, with the idea of having landing craft to bring in small numbers of vehicles and supplies. Obviously, dropships have become the king of this kind of area of warfare, but it makes sense for maybe some smaller, more outback regions in some of the great houses to have more of these on hand than entire dropships that would obviously require a jump ship to move them around to different areas of space, whereas a complement of these can be on a different, entirely different section of a planet, different continent, for instance, and be able to rapidly get up into the air with its equipment, drop off stuff in areas that it's required, and then head back to grab more if necessary. So it makes sense where that's concerned. Especially for the Capellans as well, being that they're comparatively probably the poorest of the 5 great houses, so their complement of things like jump ships and dropships probably aren't quite as large, but they're also the ones who are arguably a bit more innovative with cases where they are limited by the resources available to them. Hence they have this heavy fighter conversion of the craft, which the other great houses don't see a need for, because obviously they just literally build more larger, heavier craft if they need it. Lao obviously having to be a bit more conservative where that's concerned, with how they use some of their parts and their resources. So overall, yeah, it's a decent little craft, and you can come up with some interesting stories with this one if you want to craft them, if you want to use those for like a role-playing scenario. Good for aerospace, obviously. Gives Lao something a bit unique in that regard. I do find the idea that pilots approaching this thing with all the modern tech that they'd have to be able to obviously lock on and scan and stuff like that wouldn't be able to detect that this thing would look visually different with the extra lasers on the wings, the clearly much larger cannon sticking out of it in the nose section, and the larger missile launcher. It's a pity it doesn't actually give you the write-up about exactly where all of the equipment is, but I guess we just have to assume that the left wing medium laser becomes a large, the rear one becomes a large, the right wing LRM becomes a 20, and then the 2 smalls are exchanged for the AC instead, which would be visually very different. The craft would look different, and it would probably perform differently in the air. It would fly differently. But it's a very minor thing, but it's kind of amusing all the same. But it's a fun little vehicle. Probably something that never gets mentioned these days in the more modern stuff. It's all of these little craft like the bus and the shuttles and all that probably just get completely ignored by most of the sort of modern writing for Battletech. So there you go. That's the Mark 7 landing craft. Who knows? Was there a Mark 6 somewhere? Is there a later Mark 8? Who knows? Maybe a future book. Maybe a later book did introduce a more modern version of this craft. We may never know. Or someone does, and they'll tell me in the comments. Either way, have a good one all. Thanks for listening. As always, I'll catch you in the next one. Bye-bye.